Hi, John. I thought I'd give you a video response to your request over on the 5 Pencil Method community for some help. You said that this is your first real attempt at drawing and help required, please. So I wanted to be able to get in here and just encourage you, first of all, a great picture. I think there's most of the time far more good than there is bad in a person's drawing. You get so absorbed with what you think you want to accomplish and don't think you are that you don't see all the good things. And yet I'm glad to see you using the grid. It's a great place to start if that's your choice. And it helps you, even though it's a little bit of an aid, it helps you start seeing things. And that's one of the main things we want to do. Start seeing our subject, see the angles, see the straight lines, the verticals and the horizontals, and how everything relates to something else. And then we start seeing the shapes come together and we see the proportions starting to develop. It really is hard to see everything when you're learning because there's so many things to address all at once. And then if something isn't quite there, that becomes a big distraction and you think that it's not as good as it could be. But I think you're doing a wonderful job. I think there's a few things that I would pay attention to here that you have at your disposal already. I use a straight edge, and I like to do that because I like to be able to compare the angles of my reference to the angles in my drawing. And sometimes it's nice to be able to at least establish a few attitude lines, and that's exactly what it is. A little tilt of the head or whatever can maybe change the whole feeling of the picture. You can go from corner to corner of an eye, or the mouth in this case, and the nose, and have a wonderful opportunity to pick up those little subtle things. But here, with the grid, it is kind of a good example. We have this straight, very horizontal line, and we have the lip that curves up out of it and gives us this angle and this curve, and yet it's a lot more space here than what you actually have in your picture. You have a straight line. I can still see the grid mark here, and you don't have that space, so you've lost your gum. And it also changes maybe that cute little smile that she might have, which is the only reason I'm pointing this thing out is because I want you to realize how little it takes sometimes to capture the personality of someone. So this would be more curved. Now in Photoshop, I'm not going to be able to do this exactly the way I'd like, but now we have room for the gums. And so therefore your teeth aren't up next to the lip like that. And then there's a couple other angles you might be able to verify. I think this is probably a little bit steeper this way, and maybe that corner isn't out quite so far. But there's always something in your picture that you can relate one thing to another. It might be lining up something perfectly vertical from the eye down to the part you want to establish in a mouth. It might be the tooth that helps you line up something else. Again, horizontally, there's many opportunities. You could go from places like this over to where the teeth are and see how much farther down they are on that horizontal plane. And then there's a couple other things that may not seem that important right now, but I think these are things that I like to do so that I can start having a mental feeling that dimension starting. I would take this clean edge and I would put in some value, because now what happens when I start pulling out some of these darker places, the places that are where there's less light or maybe no light, this helps me establish my darkest values. I don't want to think real dark because I still want to be in control and develop them as I go, but I want to be able to start seeing some of the other things subdue a little bit. And so some of these other lines you're using for your contours and things, they seem bold because they are the same value as a lot of the other things you're working on. And this kind of changes that equation. It makes those lighter now in comparison, so they don't stand out so much. I think there's a few places that you could utilize that the patch exercise. I think it's number 3 on the free tutorials over on 5pencilmethod.com. And there is an opportunity for you to continually go back to those lessons. make sure that you take all the advantage you possibly can to perfect that stroke. The wonderful thing about the 5-pencil method is the fact that it's very, very structured. And then when you get good enough at it, you can have all the control you want, but you have flow and grace as well. And so it doesn't look like it's a controlled technique. And to be able to close the spaces, to be able to fill some of the gaps, to be able to have this fade away because it's actually a light contour in here, you will have an opportunity to, let me get another brush in here, you'll have an opportunity to back off a few things so that they don't dominate and stop that wonderful transition, that contour, those gradations that are going to suggest curve. One of the things we want to try to do, in fact this plays out in a number of things, we want contrast on a number of levels. Not only color and value, but we want contrast between clean edges and contours. And if we can have those wonderful transitions, those contours, contrast with the actual clean edge lines that we have, it is going to really give us that much more dimension and flow and grace. So if I subdue a few things like this, that makes the clean edge even more important. So if I go back into a place like this, I can fade it away. I can make that clean edge even more effective. I can come in on a number of places and make a real contrast with the wonderful contours of this young girl. And it's the nostrils of the nose, fading them down. It may be taking softening up the edge of a lip, or making sure that the contour or the edges of shadows coming into the light actually fade away. But that patch exercise, I think it's number 3, and the sphere exercise, that's number 4, and I think the number 5 is the troubleshooting the sphere. And there you have a chance, a great place to practice having a continuous gradation, one that is uninterrupted, that wonderful, again, transition, so that you can utilize your clean edges where they should be, out on the edges or wherever that happens to be, where you're separating dimensions, and having that contrast with the wonderful flow and grace of the contours. Now, light is also going to make a big difference, so we want to look at value as well, another wonderful contrast. So there's a lot of things that fit underneath the mantle of contrast, and I'm really excited to see this, anxious to see what you're going to do. I hope you post the updated version, and so glad you're sharing over there on the 5-pencil method community, and look forward to seeing more.